Yo, homie. That my briefcase?
Is your briefcase? Yeah, it is. Why, you want it back? How about your wallet?
Welcome back, y'all. So today, since everybody's talking about USPs, that's what I'm going to be making a video on. I have two here with me today. So got a USP 45, a standard one. This is an older one. We bought it used very long time ago. Then I also have a USP compact and 9mm. Very cool gun. Gives you that blood diamond vibe there. So, what do I think about these? Well, I think I've said in another video when I brought these up, the USP 45 is one of my favorite 45 caliber handguns, period. Just an overall. I'm very fond of the fact that, it's a double action, single action gun. It has I do like the location of the decocker. Some people may have trouble with it, but I really don't have an issue, so when I grip it, like some people might complain that you press too hard, you might actually decock the gun, but I've found that when I come off safe, my other support hand thumb blocks it from going down, so it doesn't really bother me. But it is a decocker, and if you wanted to carry it cocked and locked like a 1911, you could. So I do like that feature. And of course, that's only with the V1s, and then the V3s, I think, are the left-hand side model. But some of them are just decocker only. Some of them are safety only. Some of them don't have either. They might be a limb trigger, but this is a V1 as well as the compact is a V1. What do I think about them? Well, so just go right into its size. I'll compare the 45 first, but so I actually think it's not a lot of people may say it's a big gun, and it's not small, but at the same time, it's actually where it's big, it doesn't matter to me. I carry 226s and 92s all most of the time, so when you compare it to, like for me, comparing it to that, it's a little bit larger, length and height. Thickness though, it's actually thinner than the 226 grip. Slide's a little thicker, but that doesn't really matter. So yes, all these guns are clear. I'm not pointing them at the camera. I'm not going to kill the camera on accident. So for me, it doesn't really matter that much when it comes to carry. I wouldn't hesitate to carry this if I wanted to. Comparing it, say, to a Glock 21, another 45, it's actually just a smidge thinner in the grip. The slides are actually pretty much identical. This HK is a little bit bigger, and their lengths are pretty much identical. Grip height is the difference. Only difference there. The Glock's gonna be thinner because the slide is shorter, and the grip's a little bit longer than HK too. But you compare it to a 1911. So obviously, 1911 is going to be a little bit thinner in the slide, but the grip is actually thicker. These are standard width grips. Lengthwise, the 1911 is a little bit longer. Of course, you could say that if you had a Commander, it would be about the same. But the 1911 is a little bit shorter. However, that's about as far as I'll go with comparing size-wise. But 1911, single stack. If it was a double stack like a Para Ordnance, in fact, I can Para Ordnance frame gun. This is 38 Super, but if this is a Para Ordnance frame. The staccatos are a little bit different, I think, but Para Ordnance, double stack 1911 frames are generally thicker. So let's take it for what it's worth. But what you get with a single stack 1911 is a 7 to 8 round capacity, 10 round if you go with the extended mags, plus one in the chamber. So you're with a flush fit mag, you're typically only looking at 8 rounds in the gun, 9 if you have a little bit of a an 8 rounder that actually sticks out a little bit. Whereas the HK, you're looking at, you can either have these band state 10 round mags that sit perfectly flush, or there's 12 round mags that stick out a little bit more. And I don't know this to be totally true, but you might be able to find a flat base plate for that. Doesn't really bother me because of where it sits. That's not a part that really points, prints anyway. So that's not a really important thing, but you can either get a 10 or 12 round mag for these. So you get 13 rounds in the gun potential. Next, so the Glock, obviously, 13 round magazine, so 14 in the gun. You can get extended magazines. I found with the 9mm Glock mags that those 2 round extension wedges like this work okay. But I tried the 2 round extenders on the Glock 21 mags, and they didn't ever work right for me. So I would stick with the 13s, just 13. There's another one I wanted to talk about that I have owned is the FN 45 tactical, huge gun. Yeah, it has 15 round magazines, but the way the magazines are, it's just there's no way you're gonna conceal carry that. Any of these other guns, I wouldn't have a problem concealed carrying, except for say this 1911, this 2011, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't carry that, but all the other guns I would and have carried, so they're not out of that realm. We'll move on to the compact size wise. This is where this one the compact is really kind of a little bit bigger than most compacts. So this is a chopped down Glock 19. I bought into that fad a long time ago. This was my carry gun, and it quit being my carry gun after I did this. Don't do it, spoiler alert. But so it's cut down to 26 length. So 26 with a 2 round extension. It's, you've essentially got a way shorter gun with 1 less round capacity. This only holds 13 rounds versus 12 in this. If I put a standard 19 mag in there, give you an idea, it's still shorter and holds 15 rounds. Give you an idea on size comparison. Obviously, the 19, the Glock's thinner in every way. The grip's pretty much the same, but they're essentially the same length. So the Glock's going to be more compact. However, comparing it to another favorite of mine, the PX4 Compact. PX4, the grips are essentially the same, but the magazine doesn't have that finger groove on it, so it takes up a little bit less space. But like I said, that's not really that important. As you can see, the USP is a little bit longer and a little bit thicker. So I do love these, by the way. Very, very shootable gun. However, even though this is a little bit longer than the other two, I do think that helps a little bit, because if you look, like my finger, I don't worry about it pinching with my hands. So it's kind of just about as bare minimum as I can get. The PX4, it doesn't catch you. See, I didn't quite see it right. I kind of almost have this reflex where my pinky kicks out when I'm inserting the mag. Even with a regular Glock 19, when we go to insert the mag, it's right up against my pinky. So just one of those things. Not that big of a deal. So that kind of talks about size. Is this a perfect compact gun? No. I do like the grip size on it, but for, you know, I also wish that they'd come out with a updated magazine where, you know, you had 15 in there versus 13. Kind of like, you know, Browning High Powers did. You know, now they've got 15 round magazines. I wish someone made a 15 round mag for those. You know, with the 45, I think that the 12 round mag is fine. You know, I don't really feel like it could, you know, is subpar as compared to the other guns, like the 9mm is. So talking about some of these features of these guns, I have shot this right next to the Glock 21, the 1911s. You know, got a lot of time with 1911s, and for a 45, that recoil reduction system that they have in these, I couldn't put a percentage on it like they say is 30% reduction, but I can say for sure that these 45 USP 45s do feel like they're shooting softer than, you know, if I've done this where I'll shoot this Glock 21 and then I turned around and immediately shot this, and I felt like this gun was shooting softer. The 1911s always they've got more weight to them, so it's a little bit not fair, but I do feel like that recoil reduction system does work wonders. Of course, these are absolute tanks of guns. You know, they're way over engineered. They're gonna outlast you, outlast your kids, your grandkids. If you can find damn, you know, it's just a gun that's going to run forever. And this one is, even though it's not a tactical, it is still a very accurate gun. There actually was a time where I went and we were shooting at work, and actually was shooting this better than I was shooting the Beretta, which was kind of weird because we were doing line drills and dot drills, and you would think that the trigger on these would be a hindrance, but it wasn't. Which gets me to the trigger. Everybody knows the triggers suck on these compared to other guns. It's pretty gritty and heavy and double action. Single action is really not that bad. I don't mind it. Reset, I don't really care about resets, so it's whatever. But it's kind of got like a Garand style or a M1A style rolling brake. But the double action on these is kind of, it's like you don't know where the brake's gonna be. This one, the compact, it's not shot as much. That one, for 45, I have more shot, so it feels a little bit better, but this one's very gritty, and it just, but the single action is still very usable. I mean, they're both usable. Like I said, I was doing double action line drills, and it wasn't that big of a deal. You just have to focus more on the trigger control. And that's the worst thing about these guns is the triggers on them. And you can get custom trigger jobs from like Gray Guns, and there's a couple other places I know of. They'll do HK action work and smooth them up. But, you know, it's whatever. Then the rails, I wish that they would update these rails in 1913. I think everybody agrees that that's what they should do. You know, because I'm not going to spend the money for a light on this gun. It's, you know, or this one, because you got to get the adapter, and then it's not worth it to me. So the rail and the trigger are the two downsides to it. I don't really mind the European mag release. some might use their index. I've just found that I can just use my trigger finger and it works fine. Yeah, so grip, I do love the grip on these. I do like a little bit more aggressive grip anyway, and the squareness of it just kind of makes it index in your hand the right spot. Like sometimes with a really rounded gun like this SIG, you might not get your hand index right because it's so round. It's really hard to do sometimes with like this 2011. It's so round, you get your hand in the wrong spot because you're not used to those corners indexing in your hand. And the flats on the sides kind of make the gun go in one spot every time. So that I don't mind. It's actually pretty nice. Let me show you guys. So this one, it's got a lot of rounds through it. It's well broken in. It finishes, got some bad spots on it, but this is like a early production one. It's early mid 90s, and it's still running strong. They're just bomb-proof, tanks of guns that you wouldn't, if you had to grab it, as long as you can manipulate the trigger right, this gun will do everything you need it to do. Talking about, I already talked about accuracy, but one of the things that obviously is a downside of these is because they're HK. Things like magazines are hard to find, and when you find them, they're expensive. I think I had to pay $60 to get an extra 13 rounder, and I think it was $48 when I bought this extra mag. We have a few, but that one was $48. And I'll be right back. Sorry, that was work. So where was I? Parts, yeah, they're hard to find and expensive because like hkpro.net or whatever it's called, that one website, hkparts.net. You can get parts there and whatnot, but magazines, you typically aren't going to find USP mags in the local gun store. Which brings me to the other part of this I want to talk about. I don't have one anymore, but I did have a HK USP, or not the USP, the HK 45 Compact Tactical. Did not like it. Recoil was significantly more than any other of the 45s I've had. Also, had the horrible trigger that most HK pistols do, and it just was not a very fun gun to shoot. The grip was really slick, and it just felt like it was just bouncing around all over in your hand. And I could say this, like the P30s, I've shot a few and they're okay. But for the most part, I would always take a USP over one of the newer, the HK 45 or the P30 or whichever, because these just seem to be built better. And yeah, they're more expensive. Like most people will go into a gun store and they see the HK, if they have HKs in the gun store, you're gonna see VP9s for right 600 or under or so right now. The P30 is going to be in the high 6s to 700, and then your USPs are all going to be in the 800 plus. Sometimes $1,000, $1,200 depending on the model. So people see that the other ones are cheaper, and they're like, oh, it's HK, it's still the same. But I think there's a reason why HK charges more for these USPs. You would think that since these guns have pretty much all the USP models have been around since the 90s, that these would be easier. They've been making them longer. But then again, in my opinion, I think it's that they know these are better. People know these are better, so the value, the demand determines the value, and that's why you see these for $200, $300, $400 more than the newer generation of HK pistols counterparts. You know, like this one, this USP 45. To find one new, you know, it's going to be between $800 to $1,000 just for the basic model. Whereas a HK 45 you can find for 700-ish, you know, maybe 800 at a really high dealer. But you know, I just prefer the older ones. Even though they're not as fancy, they don't have all the different grip grip panels you can put in and all this and that. I think these are just built better. So yeah, what do I think about these? Well, like I said, I do love them. I think this is probably one of, if not my favorite, 45 caliber handgun. And even the compact, while it's not really as compact as the others that I mentioned, and the capacity is not as good, it's still a very I really enjoy this gun. So would I buy them again? Oh, absolutely. I've actually been looking for another one of these at gun shows and stuff for a long time. They're just good guns all around. The 9mm ones really don't kick much because, you know, these were originally built as 40s, unlike most 9mm, unlike most 40 caliber guns that were just 9mm with heavier recoil springs and whatnot to use 40. These were built as 40s and downsized to 9mm, so these are just generally tougher, and the recoil just feels pretty soft for a Browning tilt lock barrel action. So yeah, great guns. If you think about seeing HK and USP and of any model pretty much in the gun store, you wondering if it's good to go, in my opinion, yes, absolutely. If it says HK on it, generally it's good to go. So I'll probably be the end of this video. I just want to give my thoughts on it and get it out there. So until next time, I'll be back.